Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, California Weather Watch. Today is January 15th, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. You can see the cutoff low here off to the southwest of California. Big ridge of high pressure dominating the west coast of North America. Offshore winds continue. We'll take a look to see just exactly how much longer that is going to go on and what is to come in our future, and if we have any signs of precipitation across the state as we go on into the extended forecast. And I've been showing this the last few days. This is the mesoscale floater. This thing updates every single minute here, so you can see how smooth the play of the clouds across the region, or lack of clouds anyway, shows up. There's Mount Shasta right there. You see some of the snow across some of the higher terrain. The Klamath Range, Cascades, Sierra Nevada is right there. And of course, you can see a lot of the dust and the dirt across the desert areas. There's a Salton Sea and hardly a cloud to be found out there, even across the coastal areas. And if you go offshore a little bit there across Northern California, but yeah, you can also see Lake Tahoe right there, and some of Nevada's higher terrain as well. So again, Santa Ana winds today through Thursday. You can see some of the peak wind gusts out there. Yesterday was a little bit better than what was forecast, so that is good news, but don't get complacent just yet. You can see areas north of the Los Angeles metro are going to remain windy, and some of the typical Santa Ana winds, and the particularly dangerous situation continues. Rapid fire growth is going to be possible here for the next day or so. And then we'll see what's coming in the extended forecast. But it's the extreme fire danger through January 16th. Today is the 15th, so this goes through tomorrow. You can see Northridge, Simi Valley, Thousand Oaks, Camarillo, Fillmore, and yeah, generally north of the Los Angeles area. You can see the Palisades fire is right there, so hopefully that is getting a bit more contained today. You can see where the Eaton fire was here as well. And just because things were a little bit more quiet yesterday does not mean things can't explode back to life as we go through today. Now, the Storm Prediction Center still has the elevated and the critical risk out there for over 6.5 million people here across Southern California. And they do talk about the long-range spotting here in the low relative humidities. Again, long-range spotting is when the embers are being lofted up into the air, or they don't even have to be lofted up that far when the winds are as strong as they have been. They can easily catch things on fire a mile, 2 miles down line here. So very difficult to fight being a firefighter. Now, if you're taking a look here at Southern California, we're zoomed in pretty far. There's San Diego, there's the Los Angeles metro here, and Santa Barbara and Ventura counties over here. Now, if we scroll through the day today, you can see the strong winds do continue as we go through the day today. This is about noon, 1, 2, 3, 4 p.m. And you can see as we go through the day and the night tonight, we're continuing with this offshore direction out of the east and the northeast across much of the region. But look what happens as we go through the day Thursday. Here we are going through the early afternoon, and we cut off those offshore winds, and we reverse that wind direction back out of the west. So that is good news. We're going to bring some higher relative humidities across much of Southern California and more typical flow here. It'll be dry still across the desert areas, but where the fires have been raging, we're going to raise those relative humidities at least for a couple days. And we'll take a look at what's coming and when the next round of offshore winds is potentially coming here in a moment. But I want to show you these relative humidities. So if I back this up, this is this afternoon, and here we are about 4 p.m. right there. You can see the dry air all the way out towards the coastline. And as we go on in through tonight and tomorrow morning, we start to get that wind shift there again Thursday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon. Look at this. Relative humidities into the 90s here along a lot of the coastal areas. That includes like the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire as well. So give the firefighters a chance to get ahead of some of those fires, and this goes all the way through Friday afternoon. Again, relative humidity is making a bounce back here for a couple days at least. Now, taking a look at about 10,000 feet up in the atmosphere, you can see the offshore component here across Southern California. And if I put this into motion, that cutoff low is way down to the south off the screen there. Offshore flow continues again as we go through tomorrow morning, but then it kind of shuts off a bit here, and you can see this bit of a cutoff low. It's now kind of going off to the east there, and we're starting a bit more of that onshore flow across Southern California. But as we scroll through the extended forecast, some Arctic air moving east of the Rockies there. And we're watching for this next setup here, because you see as we go on in through Monday, look at this offshore component again, another inside slider showing up as we go through the upcoming or next week, early portion of next week. You can see the offshore winds there pushing down across the area, and that could bring again another round of some very strong winds here across much of the state, frankly, and we'll be taking a look and watching that closely over the next few days, because this is not that far out, 144 hours. This would be next Monday. If we take a look at 850 millibars, or about 5,000 feet, again, the onshore flow as we go through Thursday afternoon, Friday, And we're still keeping the westerlies around as we go through Sunday. Sunday morning, we're still doing okay. You can see the westerly flow. But then you see as we go through Sunday night into Monday morning, see these winds start to return, northeast winds across some of the North Sierra Nevada here. You start to get the north winds, northeast winds across the Sacramento Valley. The north winds come rolling down the desert areas across Death Valley, Las Vegas, and then you can see these really push out offshore again, northeast winds, low relative humidities, and some dangerous fire conditions are going to be present as we go through the next week. It looks like the European's been pretty consistent. The GFS has been waffling back and forth with the strength of these winds and how long they're going to last, but the European's been pretty consistent, so confidence in that forecast is starting to increase. Now, if we take a look at the 06Z European model, when we put this into motion, again, you can see what we've been talking about for days now, just not even a drop of rainfall for California. This is largely just noise, a few of these green shades showing up, and you can see no organized systems all the way through hour 144. And if you look closely, you can kind of see the pressure gradient really start to pack up again across some of the Great Basin, as it's going to be leading to these offshore winds across Southern California yet again through next week. And if we take a look at that mean sea level pressure, you'll see some of the high pressure moving off again as we go through the day tomorrow. This is weakening, pushing off to the east. The high pressure kind of dominates right off the Pacific Northwest here. But then again, as we start to scroll through the weekend, you'll see some of this high pressure start to encroach back down onto the area. That first wave is really not the one we're worried about. It's this next one right there. Look at that pressure gradient setting up across Nevada. Bad news here for the offshore winds returning as we go through next week. And as I talked about in my educational video, the Santa Ana winds are largely from when cold air gets out across the Great Basin, and cold air does not hold much moisture. And then when you bring this cold air and you march it down into lower elevations, it compresses and warms and heats. And then by the time it gets out towards Southern California, it's much warmer and it's got very low relative humidity values here. By that point, it's just absorbing everything it can off the landscape. Very dry air, offshore winds. And yeah, that's what spurs the fire danger. So if I put this into motion, you can see not much going on across the Great Basin as we go through Thursday and Friday. Some cooler air mainly stays east of the Rocky Mountains, some Arctic air, maybe visiting all the way down towards Texas there. But then what we're watching for here is the European wind showing this very cold air start to make its way down across Monday. And that's what would be driving our Santa Ana winds. And you can see at 5,000 feet, that northeast direction there with the very cold air across the Great Basin. Now, looking at relative humidities, again, kind of nice just to see this come across on Thursday. You can see the relative humidities kind of come back in there on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But by the time you get to Monday, look at how quickly the switch gets flipped. Monday morning about 4 a.m. and we go to about 10 a.m. There's about 1 and there's 4. Look at the single digits just return across Southern California and spread out across the coastal areas. Now, about 40,000 plus acres burned, 24 confirmed fatalities. It may be higher than that now. 12,300 structures destroyed. There's a Palisades fire and the Eaton fire are right there. And still, the Palisades fire is not much contained, and Eaton fire is only halfway. So hopefully we can get a lot of headway done on these fires as we go through the next, Thursday afternoon, Friday, Saturday, Sunday before the offshore winds start to return. And I got a lot of questions about which weather station I recommend. The Tempest weather system is the one to get. It's got a great smartphone app. It stores all the data for you in the cloud. It's all solar powered. This ultrasonic anemometer, I've been comparing it to some of my more expensive weather station equipment, and it is very accurate. It's got a UV index, a solar radiation as well, and it sets up really quickly. So click on that link down below if you want to save 10%. Now looking at the artificial intelligence, this one goes out a whopping 15 days. And as we scroll on in again towards the early portion of next week, you can see that pressure gradient again tighten up across the Great Basin. What we're looking for here is any chance of precipitation off into the extended forecast, kind of another Arctic front dropping down across some of the Intermountain West. That's not going to be much help. That would be more of an inside slider, even though it does show it maybe kicking off a little bit of precipitation. I'm just going to ignore that for now. But you can see at the very end of the run, it shows some systems trying to come back into California. But this is 15 days out. And I know that's not what a lot of you guys want to hear. It's been so bone dry across portions of California, especially south of the Bay Area, for the last 6 to 9 months. That is not much help. And you can see the 15-day precipitation anomaly. Yeah, that's not good. It's not a good look here for the West Coast. But again, what can we do about it? We'll just keep checking back daily to see if that's going to budge. Here's the temperature anomaly. Of course, the West Coast has been above normal for the month of January, and we continue this risk of high winds. The Climate Prediction Center experimental product is continuing to show that, and yeah, it's getting closer, and we're going to be dealing with this as we go through next week. So 6 to 10 day below normal precipitation. Here's the temperature, kind of a mixed bag here across a lot of the Southwest. And as we go on to the 8 to 14 day, kind of that mixed bag again, and below normal for much of the state of California. Now, looking off into the extended forecast here, the European extended run here, this goes out 46 days, and you can see that we got inside slider activity here for the next week or so. You can see that one coming down. That wouldn't be much help. Not a lot of precipitation would be associated with that. And getting a scam call here on my phone here. Let me just kill that. So again, the inside slider is going to be with us. But what I'm trying to get at here is that as we go on in through the portion of February, it does show somewhat of a pattern change. Some of these polar lobes trying to drop down across Pacific Northwest, potentially bringing some better dynamics into the state of California. As you can see, maybe getting this troughing closer to the coastline there. Not a bad signal there for the month of February. And that's how it can go here across portions of California. You go long periods of dry weather, then you can go through some very heavy rainfall and some very active weather. So maybe February is pointed the right way for much of the state. Again, that's a long way to go though. But yeah, anyway, hope you guys are enjoying the channel. I wish I had better news as far as precipitation is concerned. Again, watch out for the dangerous fire conditions again today. Got one more day to go before we start to reverse the flow, and hopefully that the firefighters catch up before the return of the offshore winds, and we'll just continue to monitor things as we go through the extended forecast. But otherwise, click like and subscribe. We'll do this all again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.